Everybody, Sue Jones here. I'm going to talk a little bit about depression tonight and what it can do to people. And the example I'm going to give you is my dad. Especially in the elderly, the depression can be very devastating, and sometimes people don't even recognize what it is. To This is just a story about my dad. And when my dad was 92 actually when my husband met him, and this is a picture of him right here. Oops, if I can get it on there. He's standing on a platform behind his 24-foot Mako boat that he took 15 to 20 miles out into the Gulf of Mexico and went fishing 2 to 3 times a week with his friends. And he was very active. In fact, my husband thought that he was in his late 70s, early 80s because of my age, and comparatively speaking, he could have been that age. But he acted and behaved as he was in his 70s, late 60s, early 70s. Dad was very busy. He kept himself busy all his life. And I even asked him one time, Dad, what do you attribute your longevity to? And he said, Sue, don't ever sit down. So, right after Jim met him, Jim's my husband, my dad had an unfortunate experience. He had a girlfriend of 20 years. And my sister and I had gone down to visit with my dad, and we went out to eat. And when we finished dinner, we started out the door, and she grabbed her chest. I thought she had her hand caught in the door. She grabbed her chest, fell to the ground, and unfortunately, she has suffered a massive MI. That was probably the beginning of the end of my dad. The first thing he said was, "What am I going to do without her? She was my eyes when I drove." Of course, that scared the daylights out of me, because being his eyes when he drove was pretty scary, because she didn't know how to drive. But in any event, he was doing okay until his friends from up north went back up north. And when that happened, he went into a deep depression. The physicians called it Alzheimer's, but that's not what it was. My dad was severely depressed. He suffered from dementia because of it, and he went downhill. And within 4 years' time, my dad passed away. And the amazing thing was this: they tried all kinds of medications for him. And I basically, being a registered nurse, forced them not to give him as many medications as they wanted to, so that he could have at least somewhat of a quality of life for what little bit of life he had left. Hey, Scotty. Hey, Tom. So Dad was on a couple of antidepressants and antipsychotics, and I had them just wean him off of almost everything, because what he was doing, it was just putting him into a stupor is what it was doing. And the point I'm getting to with this is, I talked with West Benson this morning, and West happens to be a good friend of mine and a partner in the business that I'm in. And West explained to me, which I didn't even think of. I'm a registered nurse, and I didn't think of this. Before we had prescription drugs, we had all natural substances. And those substances really helped people in the long run, maybe short of antibiotics, but they helped people in the long run stay healthy and stay happy. And what happened was, scientists came along and they made artificial substances that kind of mimicked what those ingredients did in the natural substances. And so created things like pain medications and antidepressants and antipsychotics and the kinds of things that people get hooked on nowadays. And I will tell you that the products that I take are all natural, and they lean to making you healthy, happy, and wealthy in some ways if you want to have it as a business. But the healthy side of things, I've even had a couple people tell me that when they take them, that they feel high. Well, what happens is it releases the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, and the endorphins in your brain naturally. So you do have a feeling of high, but that feeling is actually happiness. And the other thing West said to me, he said, health is where it's at. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. You can't be happy and you can't be wealthy until you're healthy first. And happiness comes from being healthy. It is the opposite of what people think. People think that if you become wealthy and you're happy, then you're healthy. And that's just not the way it works. So anyway, just back to my dad. He did pass away at the age of 96, but the last 4 years of his life weren't good. And I think they probably would have been even worse had I let him stay on the medications that they were putting him on. One of the last things, I have to tell you this story, because one of the last things that I did with my dad, he and I used to go for dinner at the Dairy Queen, and he always ordered a banana split. And when he was in the hospital, the nurses couldn't get him to eat anything. So I said, you know what, I'll bring him something in to eat. I think he'll eat it. And they said, you know, we can't get him to eat anything. And I said, well, let me just try. So I stopped at Dairy Queen on the way in, and I bought Dad a banana split. And he never opened his eyes, but he ate every last bit of that banana split. And the nurses couldn't believe it. And I said, look, this is what he likes. This is what he should have had instead of whatever it was you were giving him, because that's not what he wanted, because banana splits was what he had for dinner. And he passed away the next day. So he passed away with a banana split in his stomach, and he probably died with a smile on his face. I wasn't there when he passed, but he probably died with a smile on his face. So that's the end of my little story. But just keep in mind that there are natural things that you can use to make yourself feel better, to be happier, to relieve pain. And if you can use those, then certainly use them. If you have to resort to pain medication, and I will tell you my feelings about OxyContin and Lortab, oxycodone, I'll tell you my feelings about. They make you oblivious to the pain. They do not make the pain go away. They're not anti-inflammatory. They have nothing to do with anything but changing your mindset so that you're oblivious to the pain. So that's the end of my lecture. I'll come back tomorrow night with another story or something else. I don't know. You just never know about me. I appreciate all of you who have been on the call with me on the live video. If you would like, comment, and share on my videos, I appreciate that, especially if you share them, because some people may be interested in hearing what I have to say. And unless you share them, the only people that are seeing them are those that are watching and friends of mine. So like, comment, and share. I'd appreciate that. Drop hashtag replay if you're watching it on the replay, and that way I know that that's how you saw it. You all take care of yourselves. Have a great evening, and I will see you on the upside.